What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel, talking Monday's 8-game slate. A little bit of a shorter slate on this Monday, but a fun one nonetheless. And of course, coming off the Wolves win, I was meaning to wear some Wolves gear, JT, on the show, but I don't have any, so I had to settle for a Twins jersey. You know, we'll still represent Minnesota, and maybe the Twins can do some damage in this slate as well. It does start earlier, 25-minute earlier lock. We do have 3 games starting before the normal 7 Eastern time. So keep an eye on that. And with that, we'll throw it over to you, JT. How you doing on this Monday afternoon?
I'm doing good. I'm glad that you clarified that you were wearing Twins gear, not for the Minnesota Twins, but to support.
We'll see about that. We'll see about that when we get to the Twins gear.
To support your Minnesota Timberwolves. And the reason why I say that is many of our subscribers still have PTSD from a couple of years ago when it was Twins. They were most popular stack every night. And the rule was if the Twins are going to be owned, then I don't want to own any. But this year is different. So obviously, maybe you're wearing it for a dual purpose. But everything's going well. Congratulations. I know you've been a fan of the Wolves for a long time. A lot of years of disappointment culminating last night in slaying the champion. Now you have to get past Dallas, and I hope Glock isn't watching, a flawed Dallas team with a couple of guys and then a couple of just other dudes. So looks like Minnesota is a little bit more complete. So maybe this is the year that you get to the finals, and, you know, who knows who you're going to see with the way that the Pacers have been playing, knocking off the Knicks. Very exciting semifinal round coming up for the NBA.
Yeah. I'm thinking, obviously this is the odds-on favorite, but Wolves Celtics looks like the most likely finals pairing to me at this point. It'll be interesting to see what the Celtics have at that point. I think they're like minus 1,000 to win the series against the Pacers, which, I understand why they're big favorites, but that seems like a big number. And it'll be interesting to see what Boston has after, frankly, one of the easiest roads to the finals that we've seen, just injured team after injured team. And then, the Wolves, Suns, Nuggets, and then the Mavericks, 3 healthy squads, 3 really good healthy squads. So big difference there if it does indeed go that way. Obviously, I'll be rooting on the Wolves the rest of the way. So should be fun. Been a Minnesota sports fan my whole life. And honestly, it's been mostly, like you said, disappointment after disappointment. So it was pretty crazy to see him come back from the 20-point third quarter deficit. It was like the anti-Wolves, the anti-Minnesota sports thing to see them pull it out and have the mental toughness to overcome it. So really fun night last night, and hopefully 8 more fun nights coming for the Wolves down the stretch. With that, JT, let's get into this 8-game baseball slate, game by game. As always, we do have a couple of games starting before, 3 more games, I think, starting before this 6:40 Eastern time lock, but we'll ignore those games. We'll jump right into Milwaukee and the Miami Marlins. Joe Ross pitching for the Brewers. 5,800 for Joe Ross on DraftKings, I think, is a little bit of an intriguing price. And I'd say the same thing about Ryan Weathers, who I was kind of high on to start the year. He's been up and down, but has been better recently. I would say he's been solid on the year overall. 5,500 for him. So 2 very cheap pitchers to kick off this slate. 8.5 total. Brewers about minus 145 or so. This is a game I kind of think both pitchers are at least in play. And I could make a case for these offenses as well, particularly the Brewers, who have been surprisingly good this season and pretty good against lefties on the year. Brewers, Marlins to start this slate. JT, what do you got for us?
This is one of those games that could really go off, and no one really expects it to, because you see Ryan Weathers at 5,500 and you see Joe Ross at 5,800. And let's be clear on Joe Ross. 5,800 isn't cheap, right? For Joe Ross. That's about where he's been. He's been in the 6s. He had his first good game of the year against the Pirates last start out, 5,200. Ryan Weathers threw the game of his life last game out against Detroit. You know how I feel, especially when these poorer pitchers have ceiling games. This is a game that we could see an 11-10 game here. So I'm very intrigued by both offenses. If I was going to play one of these 2 pitchers, I would take the $300 discount and a little bit more of the strikeouts from Milwaukee. But honestly, with the pitching on this slate, I see very little reason to go anywhere near these pitchers. And both these offenses are in play for me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I was kind of looking at Ross and Weathers a little bit. I do think I prefer generally to spend up on pitching today. We'll get to some of those guys, obviously, as we go throughout the slate. Any specific hitters in this game that really stand out to you? My man, Joey Ortiz hitting third at 3,500, I think is a strong play. I'm sure he'll be a popular one. But any particular bats in Brewers and Marlins that you're looking at?
Yeah, Ortiz and, Gary Sanchez in there. Sanchez has actually come to life here over the last 10 days, and particularly against left-handed pitching. I'm not going out of my way to roster any individual bats here. It's more stacking just because, particularly on the Milwaukee side, because of how bad the Marlins bullpen has been. You get to the Marlins side, I think people are going to focus on the lefties. Obviously, sure, Jazz, Josh Bell, Jesus Sanchez a little bit less so, but Nick Gordon's actually been hitting the ball well. But I like Brian De La Cruz. I like him as a player. I think he's starting to maybe put it together a little bit. Not quite all the way there. Obviously, they're hoping that he fulfills some of his promise. So for me, I'm not going to be focused on trying to pick out an individual hitter here. It's more so in my pool, I'm going to be above the field. Not so much on the Brewers are going to be popular, but I'll be above the field on the Marlins on the pool, especially if Joe Ross gets a little steam because people are going to see 5,800 and think it's cheap. For his strikeout rate, which is a robust 19%, yeah, we're not all that interested in any of these pitchers.
Fair enough. Next game on the slate, Minnesota Twins and Washington Nationals. This one in DC. It should be one of the better hitting weather games we've had in DC so far. 75 degrees, humid, a little bit of wind blowing out to left field. Kind of surprised the total is only 7.5. I guess it makes sense. Pablo Lopez pitching for the Twins, coming off a bit of a rough outing against the Yankees. But, I mean, the Yankees are doing that to everybody right now. Just been on fire really in the month of May. Almost no right-handed pitchers have had success against them. I would expect Lopez to bounce back in a big way against the Nationals here. And then Mitchell Parker, rookie pitcher for the Nationals, it's actually been pretty solid so far in his, what's he made, 6 or 7 starts. Not really fully buying it with Mitchell Parker. He wasn't like a prospect of really any note. I mean, he was a number 29 ranked prospect in the national system coming into the year. Now, we do have enough sample on him this year to know he's obviously better than that. But I do like the Twins' chances here. Maybe I just got the, the Minnesota fever after the Wolves win. Maybe you can talk me off of the Twins, but I do kind of like their chances against the lefty. I will say Margot, Farmer, and maybe Vasquez pinch hit risks. I think everybody else should be safe in this one. Got Byron Buxton back a couple days ago. Not that he's done anything all season, but historically at least, lefty masher to some degree. So I do like this Twins offense. Nationals bullpen, I'll also mention, is pretty bad and also tired. They've used all of their relievers either yesterday or on Saturday. So they are a little bit gassed in that respect. And then obviously we know what the Twins bullpen can do. So I love Pablo here. He is my SP1 on this slate. I think it's close between him and Yamamoto. I'd slightly lean Pablo. I like this Twins offense, and then pretty much completely out on the entirety of the National side of this game. What about you, JT? Nationals and Twins?
Yeah, I think we both liked Pablo Lopez when he pitched, even though it was against the Yankees, and he had been coming off a huge performance. I think this is a bounce back spot here for him. It doesn't matter so much that it's the Nationals. They do have a couple of good bats up the top of this lineup, but when you look at the bottom of this lineup, there's a lot of swing and miss here and guys that are just having very, very bad years. The one good thing I will say, if you're interested in playing Minnesota bats here, is the Nationals' lone lefty in their bullpen has thrown each of the last 2 days. So I'm not all that interested in Kyle Farmer. That's the one guy that I'll probably just X. I'm not going to play him. I don't care. If he hits a home run, that's fantastic. If he gets in the winner, I will take that as my one loss on the season when Kyle Farmer is in the winner, which is probably what he's going to do now. All kidding aside, though, it is a better spot for Minnesota than it normally would be because a lot of these guys who are righties in the lineup have a bit, I should say a bit more risk, I guess, righty starting here because you're not going to have any lefties coming in. So definitely going to X out guys like Farmer, and would Miranda be the other guy? Miranda's a pretty big pinch hit.
Farmer and Margot are clearly the two biggest pitchers.
Margot, and of course, Margot in the 3 slot. So it makes it tougher here, but I think the rest of these Nationals are fine.
Yeah. In on the Twins, Jeffers up top. Yeah. I think Jeffers, clearly the best catcher on this slate to me, and one of the best one-offs leading off there. You just see that leadoff bomb coming for Ryan Jeffers. So I certainly like him. And then, Margot and Farmer, like we mentioned, the 2 risks. Any Nationals bats at all for you against Pablo Lopez? And where does Lopez rank among your pitching hierarchy today, JT?
He's in the top probably 2 or 3. Definitely going to have more exposure than the field on him. And then Jeffers is a good option here, but William Contreras has been on fire. He's $1,000 more. But, they both, all things being equal, you take out the prices, I would rank Contreras number 1. You get that savings for Jeffers. You generally know that Jeffers is going to be in there the entire game here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Contreras, Jeffers, two leadoff catchers to start this play, 2 awesome plays. And I think we're spinning up for it. Even if you aren't stacking those teams, I think the one-off leadoff catcher, a pretty good way to go to finish out a lineup, even if you're going a different direction other than Brewers or Twins as your main stack. That's Twins and Nationals. Boston, Tampa Bay up next. We have Tanner Houck, Taj Bradley, 2 right-handers on the hill, 7.5 total in Tampa. Closely lined game. The Rays are slight favorites. This will be Taj Bradley's 3rd outing of the year. Results-wise, they've both been really good against the Yankees and in Boston. So 2 tough matchups for Bradley, 93 and 83 pitches in those. So really no workload concerns. $8K price tag seems fair. And he has a prospect of some note. He's kind of been bounced around a little bit, dealt with some injuries. He definitely has a lot of talent, though. And I think he's interesting here against Boston. Wouldn't like him necessarily in Boston, even though he did pitch well against them last time out. But in Tampa, I do think he's got to be on the short list of pitchers today. And then Tanner Houck has been pretty awesome for the Red Sox as well. Good matchup for him. We like picking on this Rays team, especially with right-handers. I don't think Houck has faced them yet this year, but yeah, I would expect him to have success against the Rays. So I like the pitching in this game. I don't really see a ton of bats that I'm going to here. What about you, JT, Red Sox and Rays?
Yeah, so I have concerns about both pitchers. Taj Bradley is right now projected to be the highest owned pitcher on this slate, where we have a bunch of aces. It's likely due to the 8K price point. And there are some red flags here. He leads the slate in hard hit balls allowed at somewhere close to 50%. And it looks like he's been a little bit lucky, a 7.25 expected ERA, despite the other numbers being a lot lower. Sure, there's a strikeout rate that's there, but I think the Red Sox are sneaky here, and I'm going to be off on Bradley tonight. He could pitch well. I just see some red flags there in the advanced metrics, and I'm going to see if I can catch a little gold here with the Red Sox at 3% owned. So I'll be playing Red Sox tonight. For Tanner Houck, a little bit, not so much of a red flag, but he is a young pitcher. The Red Sox, with these young pitchers, Cutter Crawford, they don't let them go deep all the time. My concern here is last time out against the Rays, they did let Houck go deep with 112 pitches. He was good, but not great. And we've seen that from a lot of these Red Sox pitchers. They seem to get in trouble sometimes because of the defense. The Red Sox not having a very good defense helping these guys out. Houck will be in my pool. How much I'll have, I don't know, maybe even with the field. But I like the Red Sox here as a contrarian stack. I'm not all that interested in the Rays, but I will leave them in my pool just because the Red Sox bullpen, of course, has had their issues as well. So higher here on the Sox than I think most people are going to be.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the stats for Taj Bradley. Obviously, only a couple games, so not a big sample size.
Sure.
But yeah, it does look pretty bad in terms of the underlying metrics for him. It's kind of, you can't take too much, 2 games of any pitcher obviously is a very short sample size. It's funny because the surface results have been good. The underlying metrics, not so much.
But should he be, I guess the point here is, should he be 37% owned? right? Should he be the highest owned pitcher on this slate with, Yoshi, Lopez, Framber, Sonny Gray, who's pitched well, Logan Gilbert, again, a very tough matchup, but people are seeing that 8K price point, see that he's done okay. I think there's value in taking the opposite side here on a slate that, to me, doesn't really have a lot of offenses that are smash spots, right? That are okay. Yeah, this is going to be great.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think he really deserves to be the most owned or even in the top couple of highest owned pitchers on the slate. We just don't have that much of a sample size of knowing just how good he is. And like you said, some of the underlying metrics for Bradley don't look great. Houck, I will say Rays do have 5 lefties in there. They got Josh Lowe back recently. Actually, they got both Brandon Lau and Josh Lowe in there. They call it Miranda. So a team that there was for a while there, like they had no choice but to roll out. It was like 7, 8, sometimes 9 right-handed hitters, even against pitchers like Houck, who are tough on right-handed bats. But yeah, obviously, with the lefties in there, I do think it changes for Houck, who does see his strikeout percentage against right-handed hitters. It's at 30%. Against lefties down to 20%. So a big drop off from Houck when you switch hands. And yeah, this Rays lineup maybe more built to handle a pitcher like Houck than I anticipated. So yeah, kind of talked me off of these pitchers a little bit. And I do think, if you can get leverage against a pitcher like Taj Bradley, who we have serious question marks about, it's not like the Red Sox don't have dangerous bats in there. So that does make a lot of sense. Nice call. Yeah. We'll see, I guess.
And don't forget how putrid, because we're used to the Rays having a great bullpen. Not this year.
100% makes sense to me on Boston and Tampa Bay. Up next, we have the Seattle Mariners and the New York Yankees. We talked about the Yankees, obviously, in passing there. Just an offense. They're just on fire right now. Feels like a few years ago. I can't remember what year it was. Maybe it was like 2019 or something when the Yankees just absolutely crushed it. That second half of the year, just putting up so much runs. I don't think they're to that point yet, but this is a very, very dangerous offensive squad to the point where I'm sure Logan Gilbert will have very low ownership. Yeah, seeing him below 10%. Still don't have that much interest. They just don't want to go up against this Yankees team. We know these Seattle pitchers obviously much better at home typically than they are on the road. 70 degrees in Yankee Stadium. Marcus Stroman pitching for the Yankees. It's about a -140 favorite in this one. It does look like a night, JT, where we could be a struggle to get runs into your lineup. There's just not that many offenses, like you said, that look that great. Any interest in Mariners or Yankees here? This game mostly going to be in a void kind of all over for me, but what do you see, Yankees and Mariners?
Yeah, we saw the Logan Gilbert blow-up game a couple of games back. I think he limits the damage enough, maybe gives up a couple of home runs here. I won't completely avoid Yankee stacks in my pool for 150. I don't know if I can get to the Mariners stacks, though. It's not Marcus Stroman, okay? They're striking out against everybody, absolutely everybody right now. Stroman, I think, is actually interesting at 8,300 at lower ownership than we normally have. For some reason, he's always popular. But this Yankees bullpen has been one of the best in baseball. And I just find it hard on this slate where we're trying to hone in on what's the best opportunities for offense. I just find a hard time believing it's going to be the Seattle Mariners tonight in this spot. So probably, limited, if any, 5-mans, and I'll keep the Yankees at whatever they come in at in the pool.
Yeah, the Yankees, like you said, one of the best bullpens in baseball. It's also rested. They used their long reliever, their worst bullpen arm, Michael Tonkin, for 48 pitches yesterday. He gave pretty much everybody else a break, though. So they'll have, the full arsenal of their bullpen arms available. Luke Weaver, who's been just amazing this year out of the pen, hasn't pitched in 4 days. He could get a couple innings here. So unless they really get to Stroman early, which just doesn't happen that often. I'm with you. I think the Mariners stack just doesn't make a ton of sense. Yankees, yeah, I think better as one-off, right? Logan Gilbert does give up the home run ball. We did see a blow-up start from him, but we're not going to see many of those, even on the road. He's obviously a very good pitcher. And, I think, Soto, Judge, even Stanton right now is hot. If you can fit those guys in as one-offs, they make a lot of sense. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gilbert give up a home run or two, but would be surprised to see the Yankees be the top scoring team on the slate. So we're on the same page on that one. Detroit and Kansas City up next. We are halfway through the slate, so a good time to remind you guys, hit the like button. We got a good crew watching this show. And, if you want the winners for every sport, DFS sport betting, everything else, go over to runpuresports.com. You can use promo code DC15 for 15% off your first weekly or monthly payment. All right, JT, let's keep it moving. Detroit and Kansas City up next. 9 total in this one, essentially a toss-up via the betting line. Michael Wacha and Reese Olson taking the hill. Both guys have pitched pretty well this year. Reese Olson in particular, his surface numbers are spectacular. An ERA sitting around 2, less than a base runner per inning allowed from Reese Olson. And then I guess Michael Wacha hasn't been that great. I get him and Seth Lugo mixed up, but Lugo just dominating. Wacha's been pretty pedestrian. 2 good starts in a row for him. Now, they were on the West Coast against Seattle and the LA Angels. This one, I was kind of surprised to see a 9 total, frankly, in this game. But really good hitting conditions in Kansas City. 80 degrees, winds blowing out to left center field. And we've seen this part, provide some pretty high-scoring games this year already. JT, what do you got for us, Royals and Tigers?
So I'll start with the pitchers. Olson coming off maybe his best game of the season, best or second best game of the season. Wacha, as you mentioned, coming off good performances in Anaheim against the Angels, and then I believe it was in Seattle as well against the Mariners, who we just said are swinging and striking out against everyone right now. So I like gambling on a little bit of regression here, particularly for Michael Wacha. This Detroit team over the last couple of weeks, and particularly over the weekend in Arizona, really putting runs together, putting good at-bats together. The strikeouts are still there, but they're putting up runs on the board. So warm weather, a little bit of a light wind out to left field here. So I don't mind either of these offenses. I'll probably have a little bit more of Detroit. I think the field's going to have a little bit more Detroit too. And I just the way that this slate shapes up, I don't see myself getting to much, if any, of either of these pitchers either. I just don't see that it's completely necessary here on this slate.
I'm a Reese Olson fan. I have played a bunch of him this year. I just don't know if this is a spot for Reese Olson. Yeah, we do have Uncle T says he said 9th tonight. They got Uncle T in the lineup in the 9 hole. So maybe Jake Rogers can do some damage there. I haven't played much Jake Rogers this year. I don't know. There was a time last year when I was playing a lot of Jake Rogers, but I think he's got a little bit of a slow start this year. So just 2 home runs, 200 batting average for Mr. Rogers. Pick it up, Uncle T. Come on, we need some dongs out of Uncle T.
We love Uncle T, but Jake Rogers just isn't a hitter that I go looking for, right? I mean, it's sort of like, even if you're hand building, you're like, okay, if I get to the catcher spot and he's like one of 3 guys there and he fits, I guess I would play him. But we love Uncle T a lot more.
I thought Uncle T was Ellie De La Cruz. They look the same. Very striking resemblance.
Actually, Uncle T is faster. You wouldn't believe it, but Uncle T would actually win in a race. So there you go.
That I would like to see. Uncle T versus Ellie De La Cruz running around the track. That'd be a good one. You like the Tiger side better, you said, JT?
For me, I do. I like the Tiger side here a little bit more.
Yeah, they make sense to me too. All right. Cruising right along here. That's Detroit and Kansas City. Up next, we've got Baltimore and the St. Louis Cardinals. So in St. Louis, another warm day, similar to Kansas City, obviously 85 degrees, high humidity, winds out to left center field. Sonny Gray pitching for the St. Louis Cardinals. Obviously, he's been pretty much lights out outside of that one bad start against Milwaukee, who is, again, another team kind of like the Yankees. They've been hot. I guess a little shaky against the Angels. Last time out, too, we did get 9 strikeouts in that game, though. So mostly just kind of some bad ball luck in that one for Sonny Gray. Would expect him to bounce back here. I was looking at the, just the May numbers. So the last 2 or 3 weeks. And this Baltimore team has really not hit that well against right-handed, especially, right-handed pitching. I still don't think I want to pay the $10K price tag for Sonny Gray. I prefer Lopez. I do prefer Yamamoto. But I think Gray is an okay play here. I assume he'll be low owned. 10 to 15% maybe estimated for Sonny Gray makes sense to me. And then Dean Kramer, kind of flying under the radar, but also pitching pretty damn well for Baltimore this season. He is 7,700. This Cardinals offense has come to life a little bit over the last couple of weeks. I still think they're an offense to target overall, especially with right-handed pitchers. So Dean Kramer makes some sense to me at 7,700. Interested to hear your thoughts on Kramer, Sonny Gray, and then any bats in this game that you like, JT.
Yeah, I'll start with Sonny Gray. We thought in the beginning of the season it looked like he was going to be at least allowed to go much deeper in games, and it hasn't been the case recently. And some of that may be due to just game script. I'm not ready to say that he's not going to be able to go deep. Like in here makes the point that I was going to, which is with the Cardinals bullpen being stretched a little bit thin, this may be a spot where if Sonny is efficient, he gets into that 6th, 7th inning if he pitches well. So I'm in on Sonny Gray here. I don't know how much I'll have of him. It just comes down to what my pool is. Like you, I like Lopez, I like Yoshi. And so we'll see how that ends up. I do like the Cardinals here. I think Dean Kramer is more of an idea than a real commodity. He's pitched very well so far to start this season, but also another guy that's been a little bit lucky despite giving up nearly 2 home runs per 9 innings, despite an expected ERA over 5. And you mentioned the Cardinals offense actually coming to life, probably thanks to the Discord. DC, a couple of those days where people thought that they should carry Paul Goldschmidt out on a stretcher over into the morgue, and boom, he hits a couple of home runs. So I like Sonny. I like the Cardinals here. When I first opened the slate, I said, man, should the Orioles be 3% in this spot when you think about the Cardinals bullpen and how bad they've been? But like you said, they've slowed down here a bit after a very nice start to the season. Maybe Gunnar Henderson hasn't slowed down, but I think this is a spot where I'll be more certainly higher on Gray. I probably won't have any Dean Kramer. And I like the Cardinals here as perhaps somewhat under the radar on this slate.
Any particular Cardinals you're trying to get in there?
Nootbaar has been hitting the ball well. Burleson has been hitting the ball well. Mason Wynn hit a home run the other day. There's some speed, and it'd be great if Ali Marmol remembered that he's got some speed in the lineup and actually let them try and run here. Though, of course, Rutschman a very good catcher. So, but yes, we will look for those guys. And Jacob Stubbs, I had nothing to do with it. I just said that once you guys trashed Paulie, he was absolutely going to hit a home run, and he did. Yeah,
looking at some of the underlying metrics here, Kramer, like you mentioned, he's got a 3.7 ERA. His expected ERA, which I think is the best. If you're using one number, I think the StatCast expected ERA encompasses a lot of what a pitcher is doing pretty well. Sitting at like 5.3. So, he's been running very hot. And then I looked up Nootbaar there while you're talking. Like his StatCast page is just dead red, which is a good thing. In the 90th percentile or close to it, pretty much every hitting category. So, I like that the Nootbaar call, and you talked me off of any real Dean Kramer interest. Wasn't planning to go there, but digging in a little deeper, like you said, does make sense to go a different direction today. Let's get to these last 2 games. We'll do the fun stuff: stacks, pitchers, home runs, plays of the day to end the show. 300 people watching. Hit the like button. Helps us out. Let's get to the last 2 games, JT, and maybe we'll get out here a little bit early on this Monday afternoon. LA Angels and Houston Astros. Next on the docket, Framber Valdez missed I think he missed the minimum amount of time or close to it with that little elbow injury. But he's come back and has been kind of progressively getting better, including in his last start against Oakland, where he put up an absolute gem, 8 strikeouts, 7 shutout innings. Looks like he's back to normal Framber Valdez, who's one of the top arms in the league, no question about it. He'll pitch at home here against an Angels team that has shown some life for sure. Again, I still do think they are a target overall. And yeah, you got to like Framber here at 8,800. I don't play it maybe as much Framber as the field does, just because of I don't know if it's, at least for me, kind of a perceived lack of strikeout upside. Even in that last game, like that was a season high on the year, 8 strikeouts. Previous high was 6. So he's not a guy who misses a ton of bats, but he does go deep into games. He's kind of the quality start master if you're playing over at FanDuel. And yeah, I think a little bit of a discount from what his true talent price tag should be at 8,800. So he makes a lot of sense to me. And then Reed Detmers pitching opposite him. Detmers, if you remember, had that amazing start. Their first 3 starts of the year, he was looking at or pitching at least like one of the best pitchers in baseball. It's been a rough go for Detmers since then, and I would expect the Astros to certainly have some success against Reed Detmers here. So 2 lefties on the hill, 8 total. Astros, big favorite, sitting around -220. What do you got for us in this one? Astros and Angels, JT.
Yeah, so the Angels, another one of these teams that out of nowhere has been hitting very well against left-handed pitching. Of course, Framber is not your average left-handed pitcher, right? Cy Young, and certainly a great performance against the Oakland A's. Still, like you, I kind of prefer these other guys to him, so he's in the pool. I just don't know how much I'm going to have of him. Detmers, DC, I made the mistake here the last few times he's played because of matchup, because of whether it's strikeout numbers or thinking that, no, he's better than this. He hasn't been better than this. He's been downright terrible. He's missed spots. He has walked guys, and it's been left-handed hitters that have done a ton of damage against him. Last time out, Vinny Pasquantino takes him deep and goes either 3 for 4 or 4 for 4, and no hitter on the planet hotter than Kyle Tucker right now. Don't know how much of the 5-mans I want to have for these Astros, just because, I think they're going to garner some ownership here. It looks like, maybe not that much, maybe 8%, which isn't crazy, but definitely Astros minis. And then I'm going to leave the Angels in my pool here, because the reason why Framber Valdez needed to go so deep in that last game against Oakland was because the bullpen has been terrible for Houston. Again, another team where for years that's been one of their strengths. I mean, you got to get to Josh Hader before you feel comfortable about anybody in this Astros bullpen. So take a few shots here on the Angels as well.
Yeah, even Hader hasn't been good. Ryan Presley hasn't been great this year. Certainly a fall from grace for that Astros bullpen. Problem is, Valdez just goes so deep into games. It's like 6-7 innings, pretty much guaranteed from him. So probably only a couple innings from the Astros bullpen, but makes sense. Taylor Ward, Joe Adele is still cheap, putting up big upside at least. Obviously, Framber doesn't allow a ton of home runs, but it does make sense, I think, to leave those guys in the pool. They will be very low owned, the Angels, tonight. That's for sure. Last game on the slate. Let's get to Arizona and the LA Dodgers. This one does start 2 hours after LA and Houston. So, we'll have, if you're going to this game at all, late night hammer situation. You got Yoshi Yamamoto pitching for the Dodgers, coming off his worst outing since that South Korea game back on March 21st. Wasn't terrible for Yamamoto. Gave up 4 earned runs in 5 2/3 against the Giants. I think he gave up a 3-run home run in that one that did most of the damage. I'm not really worried about that, to be honest. I expect Yamamoto to be, kind of back on the horse and pitching well. Big favorite here, -235, 8.5 total. Obviously, a lot of that comes on the Dodgers side, who will go against the combination of Joe Mantiply, who is listed as the opener, the starting pitcher for this game, and then Shane Ciccone will come in to pitch. Looks like the majority, 4, 5, 6 innings out of him, I think, is the D-backs plan for this one. Dodgers did lose Max Muncy to the IL. He's going to be out probably a month or so. And then they called up Miguel Vargas. I don't believe we have the Dodgers lineup yet, but if he's in there, he's interesting. He's 2,200. Was kind of tearing up minor league ball before the call up. And then, the top of the Dodgers line, the Betts, Ohtani, Freeman combination, just going absolutely crazy. What Ohtani's doing right now is just a whole other level. I almost feel like JT, he should be like priced in his own right. He should be like 7K, and then everybody else should be, I don't know, under 6,500. So I've been playing as much Ohtani as I can get my hands on. I'll certainly try to fit him in there tonight. I do think he is the best hitter overall on this slate. No surprise there. But yeah, your thoughts here, Dodgers and D-backs.
I wanted to like the Dodgers a lot, full stack a lot. And I do like the Dodgers a lot. But here's what makes this game tricky is it's a bullpen game. Joe Mantiply, who's a lefty, is starting this game for Arizona. Reports are that we expect Slade Ciccone to come in here and pitch after him. However, DC, there's another lefty in the bullpen for Arizona, Logan Allen, who pitched 3 days ago. So when you think about the Dodgers lineup, right, I think it's difficult to get them as five-mans because the five guys that I want from this team are not guys that are going to be pinch hit, right? So you're looking at Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Smith, and Teoscar. You know, I can't make a case, maybe Andy Paez, but even with him, it's just I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to project what Roberts is going to do. Maybe these guys get full out bats if they get into a big lead, but Roberts hasn't seemed to care about that all that much this year. He's still, even with the 5, 6, 7 run lead, he's mixing and matching. They bring in an opposite hand pitcher, he's going to his bench. So what that means for me is I'm probably going to end up having some 4-man stacks of Dodgers and maybe some 4-3s just because I don't want a lot of Kike Hernandez. I don't want a lot of Gavin Lux. I know Jason Hayward hit a home run the other night. He's projected in the starting lineup. I don't know what Roberts is going to do. I think that starting lineup is going to be very important. And I guess what I would say is if Lux or Hayward make it into that lineup, I would feel a lot better about including them in stacks than if they're not starting the game because it then becomes difficult. It's going to be a mix and match. It's going to be a game theory thing between Torey Lovullo and Dave Roberts, and I just really don't want that on an 8-game slate. As far as the Diamondbacks, I don't have a ton of interest here in the Diamondbacks against Yoshi. We both like him as a pitcher, and I don't see it as an option or an opportunity to hedge here. Just not that kind of matchup for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Yamamoto seems very safe. Trevor Bryan, Miranda. I think Miranda is a moderate pinch hit risk. My guess would be he plays the whole game if you're on the Twins like I am. But yeah, Margot and Farmer are the two guys that I think are the most risky by far for pinch hit risk from the Twins. That's all 8 games. Breezing through them today. Let's get to the fun stuff, JT. Let's do favorite stacks and favorite contrarian stacks to kick this slate going. I haven't decided yet. So you know what? I'm going to throw it over to you, JT. You got your favorite stack for us ready to go.
I'll say this. Look, I think you got the two most popular stacks here are Milwaukee and Minnesota. It looks like based on ownership, at least what I'm saying. I kind of prefer Milwaukee out of those two. Not that I won't have Minnesota. I just prefer Milwaukee. So that's of the popular stacks. Of the not popular stacks, before we get to contrarian, well, let me take a look here at what the ownership is going to be before I do that, because I want to make sure that my contrarian is actually contrarian.
Well, I was gonna list the Twins as my contrarian, but it doesn't sound like that's
no. I don't think so. Saber was giving me 78% of the Twins. So that is what it is. But I'll do this. The Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to be my favorite, not popular, but not so contrarian stack today.
Yeah, I like that Cardinals call. I'll have to take the Twins then, I guess, as my just favorite stack overall, since they're not an option for contrarian. Looks like they will have some decent ownership. Favorite contrarian stack. Give me the Yankees against Logan Gilbert. I know he's a good pitcher, but man, this Yankees offense just, you sometimes just get a feeling about a team. They're just kind of feeding off each other. They get hot. Like it's, we've seen it with the Braves last year, not so much this year, but yeah, their hitting can be contagious. And this Yankees team having a lot of fun playing ball. I think they're going to put up a lot of runs as long as they can stay healthy and have the three or four big cogs in that lineup every day. So I like the Yankees as a contrarian stack. I don't think many people will go to them against Logan Gilbert. So that should qualify, meet the criteria for contrarian stack on the slate. Most important pitcher, as we define it, pitcher you think you'll be most over the field on. Do you have a good one for this one, JT?
Yeah, it looks like, man, it looks like it's for me. It's probably going to be Yoshi. Yoshi looks about in the 20s, and I think I'll be closer to mid 40s on him.
Yeah, I will have plenty of Yoshi. I'm looking at the pitcher ownerships right now. Reese Olson is 2% owned. No, I might have to talk myself back into some Reese Olson. That seems kind of crazy. I don't know for how well he's generally pitched. I'm not that scared of this Royals lineup, to be honest. So I won't name him. I'll name Pablo Lopez. He's for sure going to be in the core. For sure going to be on my main lineup. He will be very popular, but I do think he's the SP1 today. I'd take him over just slightly over Yoshi, Framber. Those three, I think, are the three best options. But Pablo Lopez, the guy that I'll be riding with, if I'm just paying up for one starting pitcher. Let's get a home run call, JT. Who's going yard tonight?
Well, I already talked about Lars Nootbaar, but I really like this Weiler Abreu for the Red Sox, and I'm going to have a good amount of Red Sox tonight, so I'm going to say Weiler Abreu.
All right, we got Abreu. I think that might be the first Weiler Abreu mention, at least, a home run call on this show.
It may be an inside the park home run, but you never know. I mean, he's going to do it.
Counts the same. My home run call will be Mr. Jeffers. I see the leadoff dom coming to get this slate going. Get that early 14 in your lineup, JT, with Mr. Ryan Jeffers. That brings us to favorite overall hitter, favorite overall bat on the slate. JT, who do you got for us?
Oh, it's honestly, we started off talking about how maybe there's not a lot of offense, and then I think we've talked ourselves into a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit more of an offensive slate.
That's usually how it goes, right? You're like, I don't know about the slate, and then by the end of the show, you're like, all right, I got to fire in some more entries.
Outside of a handful of pitchers, yeah. So I like, favorite. It's really close, but I'll go with because I think Gary Sanchez is going to be more popular just because of the 2,100 price difference on DraftKings. So I'll go with William Contreras.
There you go. Two good catches there. I'm going Joey Ortiz hitting third for the Milwaukee Brewers. Can pair him up with Contreras there, get Yelich in there for a little Milwaukee mini stack if you want to go that direction. But I love what I've seen from Ortiz, move him up versus the lefty Ryan Weathers, and expecting him to continue his good run of play. All right, that'll do it. We'll get out of here a little bit early today. The show will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Do appreciate all you guys watching. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't yet done so. And we'll see all of you tomorrow. For JT, I'm Draft Cheat, and we're out of here.